welcome back to Clair de Lune. We're here at Port Service in Ghent, alongside the quay and the shipyard on the canal. And yeah, let me take you on a little bit of a tour and explain a little bit about what has been happening. So let me set the scene for where we are. Port Service is a specialist painting company. They lease these two historic dry docks built in 1888. This large one here holds vessels up to 130 metres, and this one over here, I'll show you in a minute, holds vessels up to 70 metres. And that, down the bottom of that hole, is where we will be later today. And you can see that they're literally just starting to fill the dock, letting the water in to float this boat in here, Noah. They've been in here for a couple of weeks getting some overplating done on their hull, getting the bottom re-blacked. So once they're out, this is where we'll be moving in. I'm excited to see the water coming in. So welcome back on Clair de Lune. As you can see, things look very different from what they did. We've been in the shipyard now for about 4 or 5 weeks, and in preparation for moving into the dry dock, we've been busy taking off everything we don't need. So all of the deck has gone. You can see that the top here is really quite rusted. The deck, I think, is not a great surface for a barge like this because it doesn't allow you to get underneath and clean it properly during the off season. So, you know, there's quite a bit of damage here. This is all about to be sandblasted back. You can see here on the outside that we have removed, there was an external hatch that's been removed and welded up. There were hatches here. I'm going to talk about these. There was one here and another one up the front. These have all been taken out and welded shut as well. Again, we're about to sandblast and prime all this, so don't worry about that little bit of rust. Several reasons for removing the hatches. One is that they're 30 years old and that they were leaking and creating a lot of damage internally. But the other reason is this is going to be a guest deck. We will have guests up here, and that is a guest room down there. And no guest wants people being able to stare down and look into their bedroom. So that's what's happening up here on the top. So you can see quite a bit of work. Had to pull up all the boards, had to take out all of the joists that ran underneath. We had to get the angle grinder out and cut off a lot of the bolts because of the way they were screwed straight into the metal, and they had all seized up. So yeah, a lot of work gone on up here. We've also been remodeling the dog hatch. This one, there's another one under that blue tarp, which is currently being redone at the moment. This one is now finished. It was an interesting process. We had to lift it off. All the sealing around it had gone, the rubber silicone that prevents the water coming in. The top was really peeling and flaking, so we've pulled it apart, cleaned all the hardware, sanded it back to bare wood, and then we've now re-oiled it. And it's got 3 coats of oil on it at the moment. We've re-siliconed around some of the seams in the windows after picking the old silicone out. Quite a process, but I think they look great. Obviously, the bottom underneath still needs to be sandblasted. That's metal, and that's going to be sandblasted and repainted, and it'll look amazing after that. This one here, we've mucked up this covered cover with a bit of old like tarpaulin and some of the wood from the deck. That's just keeping the moisture, or at least most of the moisture, out while we work on this large dog hatch, which is a really quite involved process. Right up the front here, we also welded shut where there was an extraction fan from the kitchen. Nothing wrong with an extraction fan, but the layout's going to change, and now's the time to remove all of those before we start painting. Welcome into the wheelhouse, or as we now call it, the drying room. The nice thing about the wheelhouse is it has lots of windows, so when there is sun, admittedly rare at this time of year in Belgium, the things that are sitting here dry quite nicely. These are the large doors or windows from the large dog hatch. They've been sanded back. That's 1 coat of varnish, oil varnish on them at the moment, or oil stain. There'll be another 3 coats on each of them. Down the back is the crew cabin, and we've made this one for now into a little bit of a workshop, but we do oiling and painting related activity down here. We do that down this end of the boat to keep it away from where we're doing the sanding. You'll see that in a moment. So a lot has changed in this section of Clair de Lune. We've been working with architects and we have plans for what this is going to look like. I'll share some of them in the video as I'll cut it in over the top of this footage. And, there were sort of 3 different iterations thinking about various different things. This is the large dog hatch. We've actually covered it with floorboards underneath to kind of keep the heat in while we've got the tarp over the top while we work on that. The extraction fan has gone. It opens this room up nicely. You'll notice that a lot of the furniture has obviously come out. We don't need it or want it moving into the future because we're going to replace this with a lot of different things. The hatch here has been sealed, and this was done. There's kind of 2 phases of work on Clair. There's a lot of what happened in 1995 when the Americans, the Merritts, bought her and first converted her to a hotel barge. And then there's the work that was sort of done maybe in about 2010. And there are different standards and different qualities. When they cut this hatch out, they took out these supporting beams, which obviously you need to do, but they didn't reinforce along the side. And I think that created a lot of movement. This thing was very, very leaky. We had a termite nest in here, which is because there was a piece of wood down the bottom. The termite nest is not a major issue on a steel boat. That's all cleaned out now. But yeah, that's all been welded up, and we're now waterproof. This is the small dog hatch, the one that we finished from the inside. You can see again in 95 there was wood here. At some stage they put wallpaper on. We're going to sand that back and keep the wood look and feel. And then if I step back, you get a little bit of a sense of what's going to happen. You'll see the plans, but we're going to put a new staircase going here up to there, and you'll walk up and then out to the deck that way. It's important for fire safety and for guest access to the deck. This will have a bench seat, so there'll be like a built-in bench here with a sofa on this side that comes around, and then a dining seat on the other side with a table and then some loose chairs. This is really important because under the floor here is the water tanks with 10,000 litres of water. We can't easily move those tanks, so we need to keep them, which means this step unfortunately has to stay. It's not really ideal to have a step in the middle of the room, but by putting the bench seat here, we're going to make a visible barrier. And one of the last things to come out of this room will be the fireplace. We've been keeping that until today because we're still we're still living on the boat, and so we need the heating because unfortunately the radiators, the diesel heater that powers the radiators, it works, but it's not very good at the moment. That needs looking at. It's one of the many, many things on our list. So this is a bit about what's happening in this area of Clair. So we set up a little workstation here for our commonly used tools. This is one of the guest cabins, and currently it's our sanding room. So this is where we bring things here so we can work inside when the weather's not good. We also have a lot of restrictions on the timing of when we can work on things because of noise rules here in Belgium, that's perfectly reasonable, but we have to sort of keep pressing on. So we do most of our sanding in here. This is the large dog hatch. This is almost fully sanded, still a little bit to go. The changes in this room, you can see the hatch has been filled in, and you can't really see it now because I've taken the wood out, but everything around here was all rotten. You can sense a lot of condensation. Look at that. You don't want bare steel inside a boat. So, one of the many things on the list is to, that's really dripping now. One of the many things on the list is to put some insulation back up there and just seal it temporarily until the ceiling gets repaired or replaced. Layout wise, this will stay pretty much the same. This will remain a cupboard here for guests. This is the bathroom. The bathroom is going to be completely gutted. Even though the bathroom will be gutted, it's going to largely stay laid out more or less the same, except the door here is going to go the other way because it just takes up too much room inside of here. You can see we've been doing some exploration into the walls to work out where the plumbing runs, what the insulation in the boat's like. It's actually been really well insulated. There's actually double insulation. There's insulation on the steel hull on the outside, an air gap, and then insulation behind these tiles. Some changes here. So that guest cabin cupboard is behind this wall. This is a little storage area, laundry. And then this is the guest cabin, or the cupboard, in this room, on this side. And we're going to close this off. This will get opened out, and this becomes a little laundry. We're going to move the washer and dryer, which are currently behind me in the forepeak, behind a bulkhead here, so they're more accessible. A bench on top, some storage, some nice doors to close this off, which is going to make it more accessible to us when we have guests. The guests will lose this cabin, but they've got all of these wardrobes here, and then we're going to reface these, and they'll have this as cupboards here. So there's plenty of options for guests in this room for storage, and we can use that space more wisely. Other than that, not a lot has changed in here. We did seal up that hatch there. This one I have, because we've been sleeping in this room, this one I have put just a temporary board up over it with some insulation underneath. Here you can see just how weathered and damaged the rear dog hatch has been. This is basically all of the exposed wood on the boat has been, you know, in rough condition like this. Again here you can see on the side just how this is actually looking. It's, you know, very rough. This all needs to be sanded back, but we've been making progress. So with that sanding room, we've been sanding the windows. The windows come out of the frame, and we've been working our way down. This whole side has now been finished. It's not complete. You'll see there's rust here. Whoops. So there's rust in those corners. I actually need to pull the frames, but it's a bit of, you know, which thing do you do first? And although you should probably do that first, we're going to do it afterwards for various different reasons. Mostly because the timing of us going into the dock and the sandblasting, we need the boat to remain sealed up so we don't get full of sand. But once we're out of there, I'll then extract the frames, we'll grind the metal back, which we did on the other side, remove the rust, and then reseal the frames back in. Not actually that big a job, just takes time. And then here you can see this is what they look like before we got to them. So we've been doing a lot of work, a lot of sanding. And finish up here, here they go. They're just starting to push this boat off now. And yeah, move her out. So things are starting to happen here now. We're in the process of moving the boat that's next to us. It's just going to be done manually. They'll bring the ropes over and pull it across, and then it's going to come alongside of this boat here, which is going to allow us to get out of here and make our way down into the dry dock. Here we go, manually moving this barge that lies alongside of us off and out of the way. You know, it's interesting, these things weigh 100 and something to, oh, I had not noticed that he had those shark's teeth at the front. Oh my gosh, I have to go tell Karina I want to put that on the front of Clair de Lune now. It's interesting, you know, you think that these boats are really heavy, and they are. They are, you know, they weigh, well, Clair de Lune is something like 100 ton. This guy next to us is probably more like 130. And yet when you're on water, it's easy enough to move and pull them. You forget that these boats, when they were first designed, they were manually pulled alongside the canals, and in some cases loaded. Often by, I was reading as we were coming up the canals through France, often apparently by the women on the boat, the wives, who would knit as they walked along. Once they start moving, it's relatively easy to keep them going. As I like to say, it's not the going that's hard in boats, it's the stopping. So while I was making the tour, they'd moved the boat and out of the small dock, and we were ready to go. So we just sprung off here in reverse, come out into the canal, and we've turned around. It's been 4 weeks since we've moved the boat, so I was actually pretty pleased with how this has gone. And there we go, around and straight into the small dock. Now they tie some heavy wire ropes to the boat, and they pull us over. You'll see I'm actually up the front. There's no one on the helm at the moment. She's just sitting here with the ropes tugging her from side to side. And now with the wire ropes on, they've used a winch to center the boat. We've come and decided that we can now take off some last little pieces we had. You'll see we're actually starting to descend. The boat's already dropping down. And there we are. First view of the underside of Clair de Lune. It's worth noting we bought her without a survey, sight unseen, and yeah, you know, there's been obviously some risks involved in that, but we also saved ourselves a lot of money. She's rusty, right? Like, you can definitely see there's quite a bit of rust here. Now the question is, as I was saying, you know, 1 mil of iron plate translates to about 1 centimetre of rust, so really how bad is it? We won't know until we get the surveyor in and measure it. Not unexpected, the anodes have gone away. That one's completely disappeared. This is well on its way out. Some of these are here, so you know, it was time for her to come out of the water. But you know, everyone that's looking at it basically says the same thing. Yeah, she looks a bit rusty, but not too bad. And nothing really to worry about. I mean, look at this anode here. There is like nothing left. So, you know, it was time, and she's going to get a lot of maintenance. They assure us they're going to take good care of her, and we'll get her patched up and great. You've got to bear in mind this parts of this hull are 107 years old. Parts of them have been welded over before. So she's been overplated, which again is not actually that much of a surprise for a boat of this age. I thought I'd add a bit of a close-up of the rust, and there's an interesting comparison here between the power washed side and the rusted side. And just like that, the power washing is finished. They pretty much power washed all of the it literally power washed all of the rust off the boat, so that is now exposed back to bare metal. Actually looks in a lot better condition than we expected. I mean, clearly there is some pitting here, and you know, we'll have the surveyor in and see just how bad that really is, but the feeling is that she's not actually too bad, and once she's re-blacked, she should be good to go for another 5 years. But well, we'll wait on the surveyor and see what they say. And this is the anchor down. She's going to be sandblasted tomorrow.